So first of all, welcome to this EfL Online Workshop. Thank you very much for joining. The focus of this workshop will be around tags and how indicators can be used to track engagement. Just a bit of housekeeping just to start off with. I can all see you've all muted yourselves. That's great, just for the time being. So what we will do is join the demonstration if you can remain muted, but if you do have any questions, just make a quick note of them. And then towards the end of the session, there'll be a question and answer session. And I can always return back to anything that you've seen and try and answer the questions you best you can. In terms of what we're going to be focusing on today, we're going to explore how tags can be used. And I'm also going to show you some examples that I've picked up from different schools have used across the country in terms of what tags they found useful. I'll also then demonstrate how you can use tags when you're capturing evidence. We'll also then move on to looking at indicators and how you can use the preloaded DFE engagement indicator set when you're capturing evidence. And then we'll look at how you can locate evidence and filter evidence that's in your cloud, either by tag or by indicator set. So that would be looking for all the evidence that has had any DFE engagement indicator set observations gathered, be able to locate that, or potentially a particular indicator. So maybe looking at all the evidence that has any notes around persistence. And that could be for one learner, a group of learners, or across the school. We'll then look at reviewing the indicator observations within an assessment book, as well as then looking at the web console, the browser version of the app, to see how you can access and review indicator observations that's been gathered for your learners there as well. And then towards the end of the session, we'll look at how you can gather and generate indicator reports to bring all the observations around engagement in this example together within a report. And then finally, we'll finish with a question and answer session. So what I'll do is I'm going to switch over to the app. Just be a moment while I pull up the screen so you can all see it. Okay, perfect. So hopefully you can all see the app now on your screens. What we're going to look at straight away is how you, I do apologize, I've gone to the wrong place straight away. What I wanted to do is show you first of all examples of tags and what they can be used for. So I do apologize, let me go to the right place. So I'm just going to share my screen in terms of the actual resource center first of all. So where tags can be really useful, and we'll look at some real examples in a moment. Tags can be a great way of embedding key language into your annotations or in terms of your evidence capture. And it can also be a great way of locating particular types of learning or teaching or interventions that might be taking place at a later date. So schools can create their own tags, and then you can use those when you're capturing evidence. And at a later date, you can locate all the evidence that's in your cloud for a specific learner that has a particular tag attached to it. So within the EfL Online Resource Center, I'm just going to scroll down, and there's a section called Set Up Your Cloud. So let's go and have a quick look there. And then we've got frequently asked questions in terms of setting up your cloud. So I'm just going to click there. There's a whole section around how do I add tags to the cloud. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how to use tags and give you some examples of it. In terms of how you actually add them, you can always come to this particular guide. It's a really quick and easy process for you to be able to add tags to your cloud, and you use that through the admin console. The reason I also brought us here is there's also a link to some examples of tags. So I'm going to show you that now, but you and your colleagues might want to review this to be able to get some other ideas of what other tags I've seen schools use across the country. So let me just pull up the Word document. So when you clicked on this link, this particular Word document will open up. So let me just pull that across so we can all see it together. So we'll look in a moment about actually using a tag when we're capturing evidence, but schools create tags that they think are going to be useful for them. And you can easily create a tag and then just add it to the piece of evidence as you're gathering it. So as you can see here, there's various tags, some around the level of support that might have been taking place during that activity, There's also been tags created around the different areas of the educational healthcare plan. You can see we've got a few examples of tags around different areas of the curriculum or intervention that might have been taking place, and it might be a quick way of recording that intervention was taking place, as well as resources. And I suppose what I see a lot now when I'm speaking to schools and what they're saying is useful for them is creating tags around the core values that they try and promote and encourage certain behaviors or sort of values, I suppose, as it says here. So the values around respect or kindness. And you might have particular values that you try and promote at your school. You might have nice displays around the school. And the tags are a great way of being able to show people the actual work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis to try and promote that value. So tags, the opportunities with them are kind of endless, really, because if you think about it, you can create a tag that you think is useful for you, and at a later date, you can locate all the evidence that you've added or your colleagues have added a specific tag to. These are just some examples. I'm sure you may already be using some tags, or you may have your own sort of ideas too. Everyone structures and creates their own tags. The one thing I'd recommend you consider using is some sort of prefix at the start of the tag, because then it just group them all together. So what you could then do when you capture the evidence, they'll be displayed in alphabetical order, and therefore it might be easier for your teachers to locate all of these or to locate the areas of the curriculum rather than finding N for numeracy and L for literacy. They'll find the curriculum area of the tags and they'll be able to easily sort of locate them. Just anyone else who's just recently joined us, there will be a question and answer session towards the end of the webinar. So if you just remain muted for the time being, and if you do have any questions, we can look at them towards the end. So there's some examples of tags, and you've also seen within the EfL Online Resource Center how to be able to add them onto your cloud. I'm going to go across now to just to be able to look at actually on the app and to be able to see how we can actually start to use some tags when we're capturing some evidence. So my iPad screen should be coming up on yours in a moment. So if we go and capture a piece of evidence, as you know, we click on capture towards the top and in the middle. I'm going to create a piece of evidence for a specific learner. So I'm just going to press the plus to the right of learners. I could go into a specific group, or I can find all the learners on my device. I'm going to do that on this example. And I'm going to gather some evidence for Michael Sheridan. So I then just say done at the top right. I can then add photographs, as you're aware, 3 photographs or up to 3 1-minute videos. I'm just going to take one from the camera roll, because as you can see from the background, I'm not in a school setting, so I'll just use that one for today. I am going to add a comment to go with the piece of evidence, so I'll press the plus to the right of comments. In this demonstration school, I've set up a comment template, so I'm going to tap on the magnifying glass just here. I'll pick the comment template, and today I'm not going to take time putting any comments in, so I'll just put, so you can see that's where the comment would appear. As you know, when you're gathering evidence, we can link this piece of evidence to a specific framework if we wanted to. So I'm going to tap the plus to the right of frameworks, add links to a framework, and then I can also tap to be able to link to a specific piece of a framework. This is a framework which is a PLG, so it's a personal learning goals. So it's got a set of personalized targets for Michael. I can tap on any of these outcomes to link this piece of evidence to. And where tags can sometimes be, some people have described them as sort of golden threads that can work through all of your evidence. Because then what we could also do, I can press the plus to the right of tags. Once you've added your tags to the cloud, and then the tags have been added onto the device, you can use them when you capture evidence. So for example, if this was a piece of evidence also around feeling proud, or maybe it's around an area of the curriculum, I could tap on numeracy, for example. You can select a number of tags that you like, and then you just say done at the top right. And then at a later date, then I would be able to locate all the evidence for Michael that's got this specific tag that's been added to it, or for the blue class or the oak class, for example, or for all the evidence in the school, I could look for any evidence that has this specific tag that's been linked to it. So tags are a really useful way of being able to embed key language into your evidence capture. And if you're thinking, well, what sort of evidence might we want to look back for in the future across the school or for a specific learner or for a group, a tag is a great way of being able to do that. Again, if you've got any questions further around tags, we can come back to that towards the end of the session in the question and answer session. As you know, in terms of the piece of evidence, if I wanted to now, I could save this to the cloud and I could upload it. But what this other part of this workshop is about is looking at how we can use the preloaded DFE engagement indicator when you also capture evidence. So in this example, I'm going to tap the plus to the right of indicators. And a message will come up saying, okay, well, you need to save this piece of evidence to the cloud to add indicator data. So I just tap save to cloud. So what we're now going to look at is also how you can use the preloaded DFE indicator set to track engagement for your learners across the school. So I'm now going to, again, just tap on the plus to the right of indicators. This is a demonstration school, so we have a number of different indicator sets. In your school, you may just have engagement model DFE, or you may have a few others, but you won't have such a long list. But I'm just going to go in to the engagement model DFE. And where indicators can be really useful is that you may want to, it allows you to be more forensic in the recording and the reviewing of your evidence, So in essence, they allow you to create sort of mini forms, and that's what we can see here, to accompany a piece of evidence. This is the preloaded version of the DFE, and we can see we've got the 5 areas of engagement. And this preloaded version, engagement model DFE, builds on the work of the Professor Barry Carpenter and per the guidance from the Department for Education following the Rochford Review. I can then, if I want to, tap into any of these areas of engagement or all of them to record more detailed observation around Michael's engagement in relation to this specific outcome on this specific day. So I can tap into exploration, for example. This is the preloaded version, but you can edit and customize this for your school. So there's a description that's coming through at the top in terms of what exploration is. There's also a continuum that I can use to be able to say how engaged was Michael on this particular day. So in this example, let's say he was mostly sustained, for example, but you can customize the continuum to fit with your school's language around engagement. These questions then, again, you can customize them for your school, but then the preloaded version is asking around what happened, what didn't happen and why. Because one of the biggest things we took away from the guidance from the Rochford Review was encouraging members of staff to reflect on what they would do differently to encourage, in this case, Michael, to show more exploration in the future. So this second text box is all around what's the member of staff going to do differently or trying to adapt the activity or the situation or the environment to make the activity more engaging or to encourage Michael to show more exploration in the future. So again, I'm just going to put some quick text in there just so you can see where it comes through. At any point, which is a really nice feature, I can just tap quick review at the top right, and that takes me straight back to the video or picture so I can review it in more detail as I'm adding in my indicator information. To record, turn back to where I just was, I just tap cancel at the top left. I'm taken back to this screen where I could continue to make more notes. I'm just going to tap save at the top right. And then what I can do is I can go into any of these other areas as well to make some more observations around it. And in this case, it's going to be around realization. So again, I'm going to tap mostly sustained. In this example, I will just put some chunk text in there as well and tap save at the top right. I'm then also going to do it for anticipation. In this example, I'm just going to say on this occasion, it was more fleeting, their engagement around anticipation, and maybe in terms of persistence as well. I'm not, just for time, because I know how busy you all are in the middle of a school day, I'm not going to be adding text to all the areas. And if you're doing this for real, you might not want to add observations against every area on the piece of evidence. You might just want to pick a few, but in this occasion, I'm just going to pick the ones you can see here. You can see if I don't fill out the answer of the questions, then it just doesn't say that that question's not been filled in. It just, the text just doesn't come through. What's really nice about this DFE preloaded indicator set, once you start to gather the information, you can change the view to look at the sort of chart view. So I can tap the chart view just here, And then this is the spider web view, which I think is amazing. It just sort of brings engagement to life. And you can really quickly see that on this occasion, on the 11th of November, Michael, in relation to this particular outcome, was showing more exploration and realization than he was in terms of initiation, persistence, and anticipation. And I suppose the schools that have been speaking to me about it have been saying how useful this has been to sort of prompt conversations between various stakeholders around engagement for specific learners, because then people can come here, just the spider web just takes away all the jargon, all the text, but it quickly sort of presents that engagement information immediately, and it sort of prompts those conversations between staff, families and carers, and across the school and the community really. At any point, we can also, there's another view, which is sort of the blob view, where we can see the different 5 areas of engagement. And again, it's an option if you want to have an overall score being added in the middle. It is switched on in the preloaded version, but you can adapt that as well. At any point, I can go back to the table view, and then I can then, again, as soon as I want to, be able to go back to the actual selected indicator. So let's come back out there. So that is how we can then, within a piece of evidence, we've been able to add a photo and comments, as you're aware. We've linked it to a particular framework items. We've also seen how you can add tags to a piece of evidence and or indicator notes. So I could have created this piece of evidence and just added a few tags and comments, or again, you can have the option to add indicator notes. So then what we'll look at together is being able to how you can locate that piece of evidence or filter evidence in your cloud, either by tag or by indicator. So I won't actually save that piece of evidence. I'll just come back out of it. But you could just turn it to green as normal and press save, and it will upload to the cloud. What I want to look at now, though, is where we can locate that evidence on the app. So one option you have is this filter evidence screen icon just underneath the capture button. It's a really useful place to come to be able to locate any evidence that's in the cloud. I'm just going to go to filter, put that back off, sorry. Let's just go back in first of all, how it may look. So when you first of all come into this area, I'll just go back again. I'll tap on the icon just here underneath capture. I'm going to press filter at the top right. As you saw, it just remembers what you last searched for. I was just making sure everything's going to work the way I wanted it. When you come into this area then, it may say this device, or it may say the cloud. And if you wanted to search for the cloud, you just tap where it says this device and it'll change. What I can now do is I can drill down into the evidence that I'm trying to locate in the cloud. I could drill down in terms of a particular date range or all the evidence for a particular group. And again, this is where you can see tags are going to be really useful, because what I could now do is search by tag. So I just tap all to the right of tags. And if I wanted to, I could search for all the evidence that's got this feeling proud tag. So I just tap on it, tap done at the top right. And this will be all the evidence in the cloud that has this tag that's been added to it for any learner that's on my device. So I'm just going to tap apply at the top right, and then I'll be able to locate all the evidence in the cloud. I could tap into any of these to be able to review them in more detail. I can also press filter at the top right, as well as searching by tag. I can also search by indicator set, such as engagement, or maybe a particular indicator. So let's go into, just tap all to the right of indicators. If I wanted to, I could search for all the evidence that's been, any evidence that's been linked to any of the 5 areas. Or if I wanted to, I could just look at just any evidence that's been linked to exploration, for example. So you can have various choices of you being able to locate the types of evidence that you are looking for. In this example, I'll just let Zoom catch up, sorry. There we go. I'm going to look for any evidence that's been linked to any of the 5 areas of engagement. So I just tap done at the top right. I also want to do it just for a specific learner in this example. So I'm going to tap all to the right of learners. I'll go all learners on this device, and I'm going to look for Michael Sheridan just here. And then I'll press apply at the top right. So what I'm looking for here is any engagement information that's been gathered for Michael that's in the cloud. And as we can see, there's various pieces of evidence. I'm just going to go straight into this one here. This is a real piece of evidence that schools have been generous enough to let us use for demonstration. So as it is, we've blurred out the face. What you can see here is the member staff has added the comments to go with the piece of evidence. And if we scroll down further, they've added framework links. They've also added some tags. And again, this is their engagement information and the observation notes that's been recorded. And if we look at it in more detail, first of all, we can go maybe straight to the spiderweb view so we can see how engagement looked on this particular day for this learner. There we go. So we can see here that on this particular day, Michael was showing more exploration than he was in terms of initiation or anticipation, for example. And again, if we wanted to see it in more detail, we can go back to the table view, and then we can look here to see what the member staff has recorded. And what's useful is you can see here what the member staff, in terms of in relation to persistence, they've talked about what they sort of have completed, also the increased level of prompting, but also what they were, in this particular example, Michael wasn't using Chewy, but it didn't leave the table or seek any sort of sensory object. And he initiated extending the task through role play and asking to do it again later. You can see in terms of anticipation, there's quite a lot of high level physical prompts and verbal prompts that were taking place. And again, in terms of the comments or the observational notes that are being recorded by the members of staff, I always think it's useful as a team, you come together at your school and talk about, I suppose, what types of evidence you want to collect and what sort of comments you're going to build into your evidence capture, in the same way around engagement, in terms of what's going to be a really useful picture to build up a rich and vivid narrative, I suppose, of Michael's engagement in terms of towards the targets that Michael's working on. What is going to be useful language to build into that? And there's not really any right or wrong answers there, but I think the more you and your colleagues come together to talk about it and to sort of share best practice, you'll probably find that you become more consistent in terms of your evidence capture and also in terms of the observations that you're recording around engagement. So I'm just going to come back out of there. So we've looked at how to capture evidence using tags and capture more detailed forensic observations around engagement using the indicator set. We've looked at how you can use tags or indicators to be able to filter evidence in your cloud. The next bit I want to look at is how you can then see it within the assessment books. Just in terms of when we are capturing the evidence, I suppose it can be a really useful way for your formative assessment around engagement. What then sort of brings in terms of the summative assessment is then being able to see that over time. So I'm going to go in now to the assessment book area. And the PLG that I was linking evidence to, that personal framework for Michael, as you know, a PLG is two things. It's a framework, set of personalized outcomes, and it's also an assessment book. I'm an assessment manager in my school, so I've just clicked show all at the bottom. And what we're now going to go into is the assessment book for Michael. So I'm just going to tap on here. And the assessment book is a really powerful place because down the left-hand side, you've got all the framework items. You can also see all the evidence that's been gathered against each specific outcome for the learner. And as you know, you can tap on any of these numbers to be able to see all the evidence. What we're focusing on though today is more around the engagement information. And in this case, it's the indicator set. So I'm going to tap on the, wherever engagement information has been gathered here, there'll be an indicator set icon. So I can tap on the icon here. And then what we're going to see is we're going to see all the engagement information for Michael against that particular outcome. I'm going to tap on the chart view straight away because I really do like the spider webs. And what we can then do is we can scroll down, and whenever engagement information has been gathered, we can see that presented in a spider web. And I can just scroll down just to give you an idea. So, it's a useful way, I suppose, of being able to see over time all the engagement information that's been gathered for a specific learner. So I'm just going to go back into there. So I've tapped on the evidence by accident. I'm going to tap on the indicator icon there and the chart view. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit and we'll be able to see that there. So what's nice about it, I suppose, is whenever indicator information has been gathered, I can see it either in the chart view or again, I can go back to the table view to be able to see it in more detail. So in terms of your summative assessment, the assessment books is a really useful place to be able to see and to track engagement over time. The next thing I want to look at, I'm just going to press cancel there to come out of here. is we want to also look at just how we can use the web console, the browser version of the app, to also gather, or not to gather, sorry, to also be able to see the indicator information that's been gathered. So I'm just going to switch across now to the browser version of the app, which is called the web console. So let's just log into that briefly. So hopefully what you can now see, this is a demonstration school again, but it's the web console attached to the same school that we've just been using on the app. The web console's got various functions, and you can locate evidence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again search for Michael, click on his name and click search. What I want to do at the moment is I really want to focus on the engagement information again. So as you know, you can drill down in terms of a particular framework or tag. If I wanted to filter by tag again, I could just click here, locate the tag that I wanted to filter by, and be able to search for all the evidence that links to that specific tag. In relation to indicators, there's sort of two views. This is the tile view, but I can go straight away across to this other view on the right-hand side. And this will then show me any pieces of evidence that's been gathered for Michael. What's nice about that is I can tap on the spider web just here now, and it sort of opens up the engagement information. So if I now scroll down through Michael's evidence, anytime engagement information has been gathered, I can also see that on the spider web. As you know, you can also access the assessment book on the web console too, so I could come here to be able to review the evidence within the assessment book. I will just now switch back across the app. So let me just get back across over here. Because the next thing I want to try and get to is where we can see how to create an indicator report to bring all that engagement information together in a PDF so that can be reviewed either between colleagues or shared with families or carers. So just open up the app again. I'm now going to click on the PDF icon here. You can create a PDF that contains all the learners' evidence up at the top. But at the moment, what I want to look at is how we can create an indicator report. Similar to when you're creating a PDF, you have a document settings area. When we want to create an indicator report and bring all that engagement information into a PDF, we tap on Indicator, Notes and Report Settings. This is where you can name the reports, and you can also choose what information you want to bring in. So if you wanted to have an indicator report, but hide all the tags or hide all the framework links, you have various options here that you'd want to look at and explore on your own device. I'm just going to tap the cross at the top left for now. Once you've made your settings, you can then tap in New Indicator / Notes Reports, which is just here. And then you can create an indicator report. So I'm going to tap on where it says please select at the top, and I'm going to pick engagement model DFE. I can then do it for a specific learner or for a group of learners, but in this example, I'm going to do it for Michael again. So let me scroll down and get Michael. So I'm now again, any indicator information that's been linked to Michael. And in this example, I do want to drill down to a particular date range. So I'm just going to go for the spring term. It's a demonstration school, so that's why it's an older date. And you can then choose to group it by either indicator or notes, so that all the information around persistence is all together, or the observations around persistence are all together, or you can group it by evidence. In this example, I'm going to group it by indicator, and I also like charts, so I'm going to include charts. So I'm going to tap next at the top right. What that will then do is it will create a PDF, and that will be available in the learner profile page. So I can just tap OK. Each learner on a device has their own profile page, so I can just tap on the learner here to access that. Again, I could go into by group, or I can go into a specific learner. So I'm just going to go and find Michael's again. And at the moment, that document is on my iPad. I can, if I want to, upload it to the cloud, so then it's stored securely. And I could also, then my colleagues would be able to see it too. But as it's just demonstration, I'm just going to open it so you can see what the indicator report looks like around engagement for Michael. So this is demonstration school. If this was yours, you'd have your school name, your logo, the name of the learner comes through. I called this report engagement. And if I scroll then down further, first of all, it's giving an overall summary of every single time any observations have been gathered around engagement. And that summary totals that figure, which is adding up the engagement from the 5 areas, and it's giving it over time. The longer the gap between the points is the longer the gap between the time when observations were gathered. And if I scroll then down further, we then also have a line graph for each of the 5 areas of engagement. And again, I suppose what would be interesting for me, if I was still a member of SLT, would be thinking about what it's, let's have a conversation about what maybe was going on here differently with the members of staff who was working with Michael compared to what was going on here. So, indicator reports or being able to gather the observations around engagement using evidence for learning should prompt a lot of conversations and reflections between members of staff and for individual teachers to think what they can do differently in the future to help Michael to show more engagement in a particular activity or in terms of his learning. I'm just going to scroll down further just to give you a bit of an idea of the indicator reports. What we then see is any of the evidence that's been gathered that's got indicator information as well will then be displayed. So I'm just going to scroll down just briefly just to give you an idea. And what I'd recommend is it be useful if you start to use or if you are already using them in terms of gathering observation data around the preloaded indicator sets for engagement, to also then start to create indicator reports. And again, you can structure them in a way that's going to work for you and your colleagues. As you know, what I can also then do from here, I can press the up or the share arrow at the top right, and then that now takes you out of evidence for learning. You can access anything that's on your iPad. So if there was a OneDrive or a Dropbox, you could drop it into there, or if you can email it, you could email it straight away to yourself or to other colleagues. But again, what I could do is just come back out of here now. I could upload this to the cloud. So just press the cloud icon on the right-hand side. That then report or PDF is taken off my device, it's now in the cloud. And if I wanted to, it's here. If I was sharing evidence through the online parent accounts, or very shortly, the new EfL family app, I could then tap on this icon and that report could also be shared with families or parents if that's something that I wanted to do. So let's just go back to the PowerPoints. Bear with me one moment. So I do appreciate it's quite a lot of information for me to try and get into that webinar for you, the online workshop around tags and indicators. But we have gone through in terms of exploring how tags can be used, how you can use tags in the preloaded DFE engagement indicator set when you're capturing evidence, how you can locate evidence by tag and indicator set, and also how you can review the indicator observations either within assessment books and or using the web console. And then finally, we've looked at indicate reports. The session is being recorded, so you can also go back through everything I've just gone through to be able to look back at a slower pace and stop and pause the recording as you sort of have a go yourselves. What I'd like to do is just open up the floor. If anyone's got any questions, please just unmute yourself and by all means ask me any question that you'd like me to try and answer for you.
Blake, can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
When you were telling us about the assessment book evidence, as I understand, each time a member of staff had something to do with evidence, the engagement model, there was a spider diagram, and there were lots of them, one after the other, so you could see over a period of time. Is there a facility where those could be merged so you get an average over time for a range? Like on a particular week, what was the range for the engagement model looking like compared to the next week?
It's a really good question. It's a really interesting point to see where we could take it, to be honest. I think there's two parts to that. That sort of spider web, the one thing I forgot to mention is that's not coming through in terms of the indicator reports yet, but that will be added in. So the option when you do your indicator report would be able to see the spider web as well as the line graph. I believe Alan and the development team are also looking at ways that what you would be able to do is say, okay, I want to see the spider web, I want to see it over time. So the spider web might change shape, I suppose, over a period of time, if that makes sense. So it's certainly something that the development team are looking at, Jonathan, to try and incorporate in as a possible new feature going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Is there any other questions from anyone else or Jonathan again?
Oh, just a really quick one. Like, where's the recording going to be available from this?
So in exactly the same place where you've registered for the event, so that registration also will now be closed. Within 7 days of the workshop taking place, to the right of where you clicked register, there'll be a link to the recording. And on that, Chris, it's a really good point that, I'd also encourage you to, share that link with any of your colleagues who weren't able to attend, and also you and them encourage yourselves to come back to this area, because further online workshops, dates and focuses will be added to that area, as well as the recordings. So every recording will be added within 7 days of it taking place. Any other questions I can help anyone with?
Yes, please, Blake. Sorry, I missed the start of the presentation. Can you just clarify the difference between a framework and an indicator? Because I wasn't quite sure why the engagement model ended up as an indicator and not a framework.
I suppose in some ways, a framework, the way that in people I've seen using indicators is, I suppose it would then be a sort of thread throughout all the evidence that you've been gathered. So a framework is a set of outcomes. It might be generic, such as done or routes for learning, or it could be specific to one learner. So that's why what I've seen most schools be using indicators for is when they're gathering evidence, they might be linking it to a framework, and or at the same time be wanting to add indicator information to it to track engagement, so they can see what the engagement was against potentially the difference between maybe this outcome or this framework compared to other ones, I suppose, also.
Thank you.
Does that help, Sian? Is there anything else? Does that clarify your question?
Yeah, I think so. I pick up a little bit more every time I join one of your sessions. They're very good. It's just the speed of my ability to learn it. And
there's a lot to try and get in this one, particularly because, tags and indicators, the reason I try and brought them together is sometimes people try, quite often, if you want to build something else into your observations on a regular basis, a tag or an indicator is a way to go. And the great thing about tags is you can create your own completely from scratch and your own set that's going to be really useful for you. And again, if you're starting to use evidence for learning, my recommendation would be to start with a small number of tags and build them up, really. And again, I don't know when you joined, Sian, but in terms of the preloaded indicator set, you can also edit and customize that for your school so it fits with how, you might want to use a different continuum around engagement. Then you can change that if that makes sense as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sian. Is there any other final questions or any thoughts or any feedback at all before we finish for today?
Just a quick question. Sorry, I'm multitasking in the classroom, so it might be a bit noisy.
That's okay.
We've started using engagement model for on ours and in our observations, like sort of writing it down. But I think I saw on the website on the indicators an option where you clicked indicators and there was like 5 boxes and it gave you a score in the middle that had like all the 5 areas of engagement, and you typed them visually and get it a score and it gives you like a number. Is that one of the preset ones, or is that one that someone's made?
No, that's the preset one. So that's what I was using today, is the preloaded version indicator set. When you go into capture some evidence and you tap on the plus to the right of indicators, you don't, it'll say save it to the cloud. You press save to cloud and then you press the plus again and the indicator set, it very likely will be there, Kevin. If it's not there, then what I'll just do is I'll just show you how you can easily locate where you can add it yourselves. And if you've got any questions, you'll be able to come as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing there for a second. Going to get to the resource center so we can see it together. So hopefully you can all see the resource center where I've just logged back in again. There's lots of guides and videos here. So the web address is resources.evidenceforlearning.net. So that's resources.evidenceforlearning.net. If we scroll down, there is a whole section in terms of the new engagement model DFE. So I'm just going to click there. If the preloaded version hasn't already been added to your school, then you just click on the guide that says how to add the new engagement model DFE indicator set, and that will give you a step-by-step on how to, first of all, start to be able to import it, and also gives you an idea of how you can edit it if you want to. And if any of you have got any questions on that, either people who are in the webinar or people who watch this at a later date, by all means, get in touch with us and email us if you've got any questions. So anyone can always get in touch with us using services@theteachercloud.net. So that email address is services@theteachercloud.net. And then we can always log into your system and help you if you were looking at how to edit it in a way that would help you with your learners. Is there any final questions then?
No, that was great. Thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I mean, I really appreciate you all joining today, especially during your middle of your school day. Do look out for any other sort of workshops that you're interested in, and recommend your colleagues check that area out too. And I suppose the final thing is just a big thank you for me for attending this EfL Online Workshop, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much, Blake.
Thanks
a lot, everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.